Hey guys, it's John. You are on the JRB Tree Climbing channel, and that's jrbtreeclimbing.com. This one is long overdue, and it is a video on basic throwball technique. We're going to do a second video or some follow-ups on more advanced techniques, such as rigging to multiple points in the canopy. I want to get the basics out of the way first. And so we're going to give you everything I've got today. Let's put this in the tree. Okay, so let's start by showing you the details about the throw ball. Now first, this is how long I've been doing this, and I guess no one's ever seen this before. But when I started rope climbing, I didn't have any instruction whatsoever. I didn't even know what an arborist throw ball was. I just needed to get a rope in a tree. And this was my very first throw ball. This is chain that I bought at a hardware store, and I taped up with electrical tape, and this is Paracord. This machine has been through hundreds of trees. I created this 14 years ago, and I used it for quite a few years before I figured out you could buy something. And my only point in introducing you to this concept is that if you ever needed to improvise and create a throw ball, you know, yours got lost or you need to create one, anything that's about 16 ounces or so will do a fair job. It's nice to have a nice slick cord instead of paracord, but it does the trick, maybe just with a little bit more weight. And of course, paracord, you can buy the stuff in long spools, but this is what we use after we rig our throw ball into the tree, and we want to return to that tree in the future. We replace it with a length of paracord. So I always have a spool or a few lengths of this when I'm rigging. As for my throw ball itself, here is what I arrived at for my recommended configuration. And there are multiple ways to do this. A lot of arborists will use a clove hitch to attach their line. Some will use a girth hitch because it's easily removed. I've decided to use a combination. On one end, I use just a screw link that I got from a hardware store, but it's a nice small one, unlikely to get lost in a crotch. On the other end, I could have used a screw link. I just use a tiny hardware store carabiner. I have attempted using this on both sides, but occasionally this will actually get caught on a nub, and I've gotten these lost in the crotch. Now again, you can experiment with other methods of attaching your throw ball, but this is what I do. On one end, I've got a small carabiner, and on the other end, a screw link. So I can, with relative ease, I can remove my throw ball, and there's multiple times when we need to do that. Now, while I have this, and before we get in with the throw, I want to show you how I coil this up, because I don't use a flecking bag. I'm an absolute minimalist about the way that I go into the woods for all purposes. And so I'm going to show you how I do that. Now, the first point is I only carry 50 feet of throw line. You know, maybe 60 would be a little bit better, but with 50 feet, I can throw over a crotch that's 40 feet and still be able to rig it, because I can simply let the bag ride down while I attach my paracord. So here is how I coil my throw ball. I take the one end with that C-clip and I attach it to the bag. And now I simply make a butterfly coil, much the same way that I tie up or gather up my rope at the end of a climb. So I take a short bite, let it drape over the left, a short bite over the right. I just repeat that sequence back and forth until that 50 feet of line is consumed. I've got a couple feet left over, and then I go around the coil a few times. So I've got about, 4 inches left, and then I go through the coil. So at this point, it's pretty locked up. And as a last measure, I take the ball and put it through there. And this is just a great way to tidy up your throw ball. You can put that into your saddle bag. I often will carry a high visibility bag because, you know, we can easily lose these things, and I'll keep it in there. And, you know, it's that small. It's that small. I don't typically carry one when I'm hunting because I usually will be approaching a tree that it has a paracord preset. But when I do, this is all I need to do. And it doesn't really matter. It doesn't, you know, it's rare for this to become tangled in this configuration. And I'll simply undo it by reversing the sequence. Take the ball through. I'll pull that bite through. And I'm good to go. All right, so here we are. I've just arrived at a tree that I'd like to exercise my throw ball. And the first point is, I don't get right under the tree. I'm probably about 15 feet away from the tree, and that can vary based on the geometry because the ball doesn't just go up, it goes at an angle. We're trying to shoot at an angle over the crotch of interest. So I've selected this position. Again, I'm about 15 feet away. I've got the ball as I showed it. Now, it's really important that, again, because I have this disadvantage of not using a flecking bag, that I need to make sure that there's really no twigs in the way that would kind of, let's see, something like this could really ruin your day. So I make sure the immediate area is clear in front of me. And the next thing I do is I try to put that rope right in front of me. If it's off to the right or if it's off to the left, it has a tendency to pull the bag left or right as we execute the throw. And with it in that position, I always hold, because I only have 50 feet. You don't want it to hit the crotch you want to, and it just sails off into the sky, and as you're celebrating, the rope, the other end of the cord disappears. So I always hold the other end in my finger. And now I am gonna, let's get a tighter look here at how John holds the throw ball. And there are a couple ways to do it. This method is my own. I believe, you know, it just came to me, and this is how I actually do 90% of my throws. Ball on the ground, about a foot or 30 centimeters from it. I take it in my hand and I fold my hands downward. And I pinch it here. That little bit of extra resistance as it goes around my hand, I found makes it just a little bit easier to release. Of course, you could just simply grab it like this, but this is just a little bit trickier for me to release. Now, I have had a little bit of training on the throw ball, and I'm told that arborists will frequently put the line through. They'll put the line through. I'm trying to keep you in the light here. And so now you have a couple of loops to hold on to. And I've worked with some new climbers, and they feel this is easier. And so I encourage you to experiment with the hold technique. You don't want to just go into messy woods with a lot on the ground and learn this stuff. You want to practice in the backyard or the park with a nicely mowed lawn before, and get this part of your technique, your release. Get that all figured out. But again, my preference, because it's quite simple, is I grab the line and I fold my fingers down in front of it like that. Either 2 or 3, it doesn't matter. I've got a nice pivot point. Now the length, if I'm throwing a very short distance, well, like 12 feet tall, I might only have this much. If I'm throwing 50 feet, I might have this much, because the length of that pendulum will affect, that's all velocity I can transfer into the throw. And of course, you don't want to be, you know, you might need a pair of pruning shears to make sure there's no twigs and sticks and branches and impediments in your swing radius. And of course, I don't, you know, I've gotten better at this over the years, but I don't nail the crotch every single time. Okay, and so we're gonna go ahead, and I'm gonna do something really elementary. And this seems so simple, and this is a little too low, but this is what I want you to do in your own backyard, and that's just try to hit a really easy crotch. Just practice getting over something that close. Kind of like, you know, we do anything. We practice things at short distances. Now, with something that low, pretty obvious, I really can't get it stuck, right? But as we go higher into the canopy, even a tree crotch like that, there could be some bark and impediments, and right here at this point where I'm pulling the ball through, it can get caught. And so I've practiced all my bad words with this throw ball in my hand, and it's always when a throw ball gets stuck. And so what I'd like to tell you is the safest thing to do when you miss your tree crotch, the safest thing to do is to let that ball fall down and go back up with this side of the line. So let's go up a little higher. So let's say I wasn't aiming for that crotch. I was aiming for the higher one. Well, I could pull this up, but that throw ball has a tendency to get lost. It's a lot safer to remove your clip if you need to. I don't need to on this throw, but it's just safer to retrieve your throw ball and start over. It's just safer because these do get stuck, and we don't like when that happens. You would be surprised that the throw ball seems to have a mind of its own. Sometimes we'll pull it over the intended crotch, and then it finds another branch, and it does a triple Lindy with a triple twist and winds up caught on a branch, and we just don't need that. So let's keep rolling, and let's go ahead, and I'll again. So now I'm throwing over crotch that's probably about 18 feet. I've got about 18 inches of pendulum. So where do I aim? I aim at a safe place. I don't aim 4 inches over the tree crotch. I aim a foot or more. And I realize I might be making this look a little easy if you try to throw ball, but I'm not gonna miss intentionally. Let's see that again. Okay, so ricochet off the trunk, and see that little snag? If it stayed up there, it would have been a problem, but it wasn't. So we hit that. So I encourage you to practice over and over again. Now you see, I've chosen this tree because it's a black walnut and it has very smooth crotches, and with pretty high confidence, I can get my ball back and we can keep rolling. Okay, so I'm gonna go a little higher to that one on the right, and I see, now we're probably going 22 feet, and I see some, this one's not quite as easy because there's some garbage on the tree above, but I'm gonna go up and see if we can't get that. Okay, so I hit the crotch, but look where I wound up. So I can't climb on that. I can't really get this to fall down. This is a situation where I could get that throw ball lost pretty easily, and I'm not going to let that happen. We're just going to rethrow. We're just going to rethrow and get this closer to the tree trunk, because those little sucker shoots on the black walnut are preventing it from falling into place. Now you can use your judgment. You'll realize over time that sometimes a tiny little twig will impede, or a little piece of bark will impede your throw line, but it's so tiny that once you get a climbing rope up in there, the climbing rope will walk down into the crotch. So here I'm going to throw again. I'm making sure everything's free and clear. And so that time, again, I was trying to stay really close on the trunk, and I was about 2 inches right of my target and ricocheted off the trunk. But a clean miss. Okay, and now we've hit our crotch, but again, it wanted to walk up on the high side. Now, I hear this a lot from folks, and it's, you know, John, this is an awful lot of gymnastics. You really wouldn't want to do that in the woods. You wouldn't want to do that in the dark. And you're absolutely right. I don't do this very often in an actual hunting situation, because I prepare and I prep my spots. I do scouting not only days in advance. I'm climbing on paracord loops that I set over a dozen years ago. So once we have a piece of paracord in a tree, it'll last a long time, and it's awfully easy to replace by just stringing up a new one. So again, I accept the hassle of using a throw ball in the off season for prep, knowing that I'm walking to a tree or a set of prepared trees on a property that I can pick and choose from based on wind conditions or what I saw on the way in. And I have basically like you have prepared tree stands. Imagine walking into a 50-acre property and you had a dozen tree stands set up. Well, instead you've got 24 paracord loops. You've got that many trees to choose from, and you've got no investment except a piece of paracord that's in the tree. Okay, so now we got that down in the crotch. And you saw what happened, hopefully. You know, it just caught that sucker in the right way and fell down. So let's go ahead now and let's rig up our paracord. So I'm going to step over there and do so. Now, I have adopted a convention in my own climbing whereby I prefer to rig my rope from right to left. There's no right or wrong about this. It's just a convention. I like having conventions. When I'm walking up to a tree in the dark, I just like knowing that I'm going to rig from one side. So I'm going to be, when I climb this tree, I'll be putting the rope up from right to left. And so that'll be the same way I put in my paracord. So let me remove the throw ball. Not rocket science here, right? I'm just taking this off the line. Put that in my pocket. And on the ground I have prepared a length of paracord. So again, I go ahead and take advantage of the fact that I've got a quick link there so I don't have to tie anything. And I'll put this up and over. Okay, so that's going up and over the crotch. But I want to show you how I leave the paracord in the tree to come back and find it later with high confidence and with low probability that somebody has messed with my stuff. And so the first thing I do is I cut it at an appropriate length. So for me, that's just basically about knee height. I'm going to go ahead and cut my paracord. Okay, now the right side will be used for rigging, and so I'm going to go ahead and prepare that with an overhand end loop. So it is ready to go. And there's a separate video on me rigging the rope for ascent, and you'll see me arriving at a preset with a preset paracord loop, and I will use this. Now, this is you can't leave it like this, right? This would just be the squirrels would get this down, the wind would get this down. How do we make sure this doesn't get lost? I create a loop in the tree, but I do it temporarily. I create a temporary loop in the tree, and here's how I do it. Ordinarily, now this tree divides about 6 feet off the ground. I would go around the tree here. I'll just go around this crotch, right? So I've oriented it in the tree in a manner that I can't mix up left and right. When I arrive at the tree in the morning, I know my loop is on the right side. And here's what I do. I reach up about as high as I can. You know, comfortable height about 7 feet over my head. And I make an overhand knot. I just make an overhand knot, but it's slipped. I don't pull this all the way through. It's slipped, right? So that's just a simple. Welcome to the Knot Lab. I just want to give you a little bit of detail. So this is how my paracord loop would look. I've got a loop on the right side because that's the side I send up. And I just want to show you how I put that in and how I create that slipped overhand knot. I'm going to tie it with this 7mm cord. Now, of course, you do this in paracord. I'm just using 7mm cord so you get better visibility. So again, if you want to use my convention where the right side is what we send up, well, then I take a bit of it and simply create an overhand end loop. That's pretty basic. Now you could create a figure of 8, you could use a bowline, whatever your favorite end loop knot is, but I like to leave that on the right side for me. And then this is how I hide it. I'm making a slipped overhand knot. So an overhand knot is formed in remarkably similar way to the munter. So if you know how I tie the munter, it's an overhand loop to the left, and I would put my carabiner right here. That would be my munter. Now you already have that memorized if you're a JRB tree climber, or you know, if you just know the munter. You can see my detailed video on it. Well, once you have that memorized, because I do this in the dark all the time to stash my paracord, I do it with paracord, but I'm not forming a munter. I just take these 2 descending strands and put them through and give that a tug. I'll tighten that as hard as I want to with paracord. I'll send it back up in the tree, and when it's time to retrieve it, I bring it down and I just tug on these 2, and it opens up. I'll show it to you one more time. Underhand loop to the left. That would be a munter, but we'll slip that through. That's a slipped overhand knot. And let's go ahead and see it one time in paracord. So here's actual paracord, and it's almost like forming a munter. That would be a munter. You'd never form on a paracord, of course, but put that loop in there, and you can tighten that as much as you want to. You might be leaving it there, you know, for a year or 2 before you come back and get it. Send it back up in the tree so you're only looking at the bottom, and you're stashing that with that deadwood. Bring it back down and just give this a tug. All right, let's take it back out. Let's see it again. It's an overhand knot with both strands, but instead of pulling this all the way through, it'll be a slipped overhand, right? And I'll tug on that, right? Now, this is how I hide it. I hide it this way. I go rotate this so that line is headed up the tree. And I'll just put it up about halfway up the span. And then, to make sure it doesn't get away, here's a piece of deadwood, right? There's plenty of this in the forest. I make a girth hitch. And I put that there. And I just leave it there. And let me tell you, you can come back in the woods and you can find paracord loops that you put up this way 5 years ago and they're still viable. This is a completely viable method for stashing a paracord loop. And people are unlikely to notice it because it's so high off the ground and such a natural looking phenomena. So that's how it goes in. Now let's see how I arrive at the tree. And I've tested this blindfolded. I get to my tree, I don't even need a flashlight. I reach around for my loop. I get that girth hitch off of there. Now if I let go of it, again, no worries, because I can't get mixed up with left and right because the trunk is in the way. I pull down, right? I pull down till I'm in this position, and because that is a slipped overhand, you just tug on this. Just tug on it and it opens. So I'm ready to climb. This is the end that goes up, and of course just want to get this back here. Now what I'll do when I'm rigging, I will literally, just to make sure I don't screw anything up, you know, I'll just hold this end in my teeth while I'm rigging up the line here. You just don't want to get these crossed. And if you do, this is a great experiment. I can stand here at this tree and I can close my eyes, and I encourage you to do this. And you grab both of those ends and you shake one and you feel the other one. And I'm not feeling any significant vibration. As soon as you cross these lines, now I can feel that vibration. I know that there's a cross in my line. So if I get to my tree and I mess something up and I feel that vibration, well, how many revolutions could possibly have existed? 1 or 2. Well, you know, just keep your bearings about you. You can do this without your eyes. I can go this way, which is the wrong way. See, oh no, I still feel it. Let me go back the other way. and now I don't feel it, right? So you can see without your eyes with this rigging. These are just tricks I've learned over the years. Okay, so that's basically it for the basic throw ball technique. Again, you're just going to want to practice. You're going to want to get in the backyard. You're going to want to try to hit some crotches at a low height. You're going to want to hit some crotches at a higher height. You want to get a for when there's danger of losing the throw ball. Error on the side of letting it fall, regathering, and getting started again. Okay, thank you very much.